What's up, everybody? It's Russell and I. Today is the 4th of July, but this will appear after that. But we're in here on the 4th of July, podcasting, doing a little lifting, and just having fun. And today we're going to talk about our favorite movies. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about parenting. And we're going to talk about testosterone replacement therapy and how you can get involved in it if you need it.
Fighting out of Sacramento, California!
Woo! What you gonna do?
Better. Stronger.
Son of a bitch.
Faster.
Oh yeah!
I don't think you're shy. You talk to everybody. Like when we go to lunch, which we're gonna go to later, right?
Yeah.
If we go to when we go to lunch, you're like I won't talk to anybody unless they talk to me.
Okay, so I'm not. I used to be shy. I will say, I do enjoy talking to people. It's a little performative for me because it reminds me of like when I waited tables. It's a little bit of a
Hey, how you doing?
It's
I'm
a little
Russell.
bit of a
What's
defense
going down?
mechanism. It's a little bit of a defense mechanism. It's a little bit of I really do believe that humans need to start putting positivity back into the universe again in everyday actions. Like,
Well, I try. This is California for you, though. I try to look at everybody and smile. Like a girl will
Yes.
be walking by, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm going out of my way. I'm putting out the eye contact,
Yeah.
and then there's nothing coming back.
Yeah.
Like almost never. Like
Yeah.
even in my own place where I live, my own community, I'll walk around the block and nobody says hi. And it's very, very rare that somebody's like, "Hey, how you doing? Good morning."
Yeah.
When Mark and I walk in the morning, what's interesting is the older people always say hi. They're the nicest people. Like you go and you see, a grandfather, grandmother, like walking, and they're like, "Hey, good morning," right? But like people my own age or younger, like in their 20s and 30s, like they just don't even look at you. They don't make eye contact. Like as
Not
if
many.
you're
Not many.
a criminal. But I've noticed that that's very Californian. Like I've had that ever since I moved to California. In New York, everybody talks to everybody.
Oh,
And they're
dude, you
usually
just
yelling-
sandbagged my theory. You completely torpedoed my theory. I thought it was a population density issue.
I don't think so. Well, like I just remember that in New York, most of the greetings were like, "Hey, fuck you," but then like 2 seconds later, you're friends with that person. Like in New York, it's like you'll like get in a fight with somebody at a deli or something, like an argument about something, and then you're cool like right afterward. It's like it's weird. It's like there's a lot of people in New York that people say, "Oh, the people are like real mean and they're real aggressive." And it's like they are, but they're also deeper friends. So they might be mad sometimes, but then they'll be friends with you right after.
I got a cool message today from my buddy Angelo, New York Bronx guy, and we met in the video game world. We even recorded a few podcasts together. His dad or his brother's an actor, been in a couple of things, and he's a construction guy. I think he builds bridges. I think he works for like Union, like New York, Jersey Bridge Builders Union or something like that, right? Whatever that is, and that's the way he is. I mean, he is, dude. He is sweet and sour, like nobody I've ever met before. He will tell you to fuck off. He is aggressive. He will turn your balls into powder, but he's also the nicest, sweetest, like good man I've met in a long time. And he messaged me today like, "Hey man, I'm just letting you know I'm into this journey. I'm watching you. I'm cheering you on. I'm in, and we had a really nice talk with each other. Happy 4th today." So there's something to be said by that. New York, it's crunchy on the outside, soft on the inside, if that makes any sense. Do you know what I'm saying about that?
People will be aggressive, but they'll also be nice afterwards.
Yeah, he's a good guy, dude. Much love to Angelo. He's a good guy, dude. I wish him well. So also sent, and this is just, I don't know. I have a friend who's a veteran. He was pretty upfront kind of shooter guy, and I sent him a little love today, like, "Hey, dude, men like you is why I can just kick it and have barbecue today."
Awesome. Are you ready to record a podcast? What are we going to talk about today? I want to talk about, actually, we just came in talking about movies a little bit, and I was telling you, like, I just want to talk about this for a quick second.
Yeah.
And then we're going to move on to talk about some testosterone replacement therapy.
Okay.
And things like that. But, I rewatched, like, this past week, I rewatched, like, all three of the original Star Wars that came out when I was a kid. And besides all the crap that they added back in, they really hold up. Like they're really awesome stories, and I think like that's at the heart of every great movie. And then I went back and I watched Braveheart. You know, Mark always says there hasn't been a great movie since Braveheart. Great, you know, like really awesome. And I kind of agree. And I don't totally agree with that.
Sure.
It's a little bit of a ridiculous statement. He knows it. But like a movie that like defines, you know, like everything we're all about. And I think for me, you know, my top movies are those movies with like those heroes. They're like Rocky's my favorite movie of all time by far.
Right.
I remember when I went to film school and the first day I walked in, we all had to say what our favorite movie is. And they went around the class and you had to introduce yourself and say your favorite movie and why. And, you know, people were like, oh, Fellini's 8.5 or Citizen Kane or, you know, something from Truffaut or Renault or Alfred Hitchcock or something like that. And I said Rocky and the entire class just started cracking up laughing. And I'm like, what? It won Best Picture in 1976. Like, how is it, you know? And they're like, it's just funny because I'm a meathead. I also, the first day of film school, came in with my entire face blown out. I had all the blood vessels in my eyeballs had popped, so my eyes were completely bloodshot red, and my whole face had like these red dots all over it because I was in a powerlifting competition the day before school started, and I squatted 675 in a meet and blew out my face.
Oh.
And yeah, so when I came into the film school, and I had a mohawk at the time, so when I came into film school, I was just like, people were like, what is this guy?
Hey, hold on. Hold that thought. Let me grab something here for you, okay? I think this is important. I know you're a pro, and I'm interrupting the flow of your train of thought, but I think you'll find this time valuable.
Well,
you know Matthew Balcom, right?
Yeah.
Matthew Balcom.
Okay.
Matthew.
He's always sending stuff. Let's see what he's got here. Oh, a little director. That's pretty cool. Rocky 2. This is like legit.
It's legit.
Holy shit. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Matt. Dude, Matt is the man. This is so fucking cool. This has got to go up like This has got to go up like here somewhere. This is like literally from Rocky 2, Butler. Action.
Yeah. I should have already had your tray ready.
I wonder
if we could do this.
I wonder if this is the one that they used in the commercial where Rocky's like, it makes me smell mainly.
I don't trust this right now. I think that I brought here. So.
Yeah, there you go. That looks great. That's amazing. All right, so Rocky 2. So yeah, it's funny because I'm just saying, and that's amazing. I can't believe that he went through the trouble of doing that.
This might be, I'm going to guess this is nothing too.
Hopefully it's some LSD.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
That's what's next, buddy.
This is Willy Wonka's golden ticket. Certificate of authenticity. That is fucking dope. Wow, thank you. Like, I'm actually blown away. I've never had anybody send me something that cool. The only other thing that anybody's ever sent me that was that cool, and I think I have it in here somewhere. It's one of those dolls, and it's of Mad Dog. I think it might be in that cabinet, but I'm not sure. But somebody sent me, you know those little, what are they called? Those, like we have one of Smelly.
The
Right
Bobby
here.
doll. I don't know what they're called, but I know my friends love them. Yeah, I don't know what they're called. Yeah, I don't know what they're called, but they're a thing.
Anyway, so this guy, somebody made one of Mad Dog, and it's like in a package with like, they asked me to send a couple pictures of Mad Dog out, and so I sent him a couple pictures, and then he made like a little guy.
Oh, that's fantastic! I love it. I love it.
So anyway, yeah, Rocky's my favorite movie, and the reason why Rocky is my favorite movie is because of all the little nuances. Like in the first Rocky, in the original script, like Rocky gets taken away to the hospital, and it sort of ends with him in the hospital saying like, "Hey, did I win?" Blah blah blah. But luckily, when they were shooting it, they didn't have enough time to go shoot at the hospital the next day. Like it was $1 million shoestring budget, and they're like, "We're gonna just have to like end this in the ring somehow." And Stallone just like improvised that whole thing where he's like yelling for Adrian and stuff, and that ended up being the end of the movie. It was supposed to be Stallone was couldn't get up at the end. Like he passed out, and they'd pull him off and bring him to the ambulance. And then like he talks to Adrian at the hospital, and that was like the last scene. And that would have been so anticlimactic almost, after this big fight. It's just.
I mean, it was beautiful. It was. I mean, I think that was precious, but without Rocky 2, it just doesn't. It doesn't mean as much. I don't know.
Those are called happy accidents. When things happen on set and it wasn't supposed to happen and it just ends up working out. But Rocky 2, if you go back and watch Rocky 2, it is so damn good. Like Rocky gets a little ridiculous when it gets into the Rocky 3 and the Rocky 4, but those are really fun.
It turns into a different genre. It turns from a drama to an action film.
They're action movies. Yeah, like Rocky 3 and Rocky 4. It's like Rocky 3 has like 3 fights in it. It has Hulk Hogan. It has the 2 Clubber Lang fights in it, right? And it's got like 2 training montages.
Right.
Rocky 4 has 2 training montages back to back.
Yeah.
Like it has no easy way out, and then it goes right into another montage, like Hearts on Fire, like right after. It's like there's
still
no
great movie. Still great movie. It's
oh,
not
there's
the same
no
as
doubt.
The first 2.
No doubt, it's a great
genres.
movie.
Yeah.
What's amazing is I love my nephew Jake, Mark's son. He's a very quiet kid. He doesn't say much. But I'm like, hey, man, it'd be really cool if you'd come see Rocky 4 with me. And he's like, cool. He drives now and stuff. So he's like, I'll meet you there. I'm like, I got you a ticket, and I want you to come with me and my dad because the movie means a lot to us. And his Mark was out of town that weekend or whatever. And I said, like, be cool if you just came and met us. And he came all by himself, met us there. I don't even know if he's seen Rocky 4 before, but he really loved it.
It's a great film.
And it was just like we had fun, like as a family. Being able to watch Rocky 4 was really cool. And I told Jake, he couldn't believe it. I said, hey, when we went and saw this when we were little kids, we saw it in Poughkeepsie. And Poughkeepsie, 100,000 people. It's a decent-sized little city, but not the kind of city where there's ever lines for much of anything. But there was a line completely around the block. But my dad made sure that we got there like 2 hours early. And we got tickets, and then we like went and ate, and then, and then we went in the theater like when it was time to go in. And so my dad always had everything all like he could always plan everything out and make it happen. So like I remember Rocky 4, there was a line all the way around the block to see that. Now Braveheart, this is a great story. Mark and I loved going to the movies. We would go to the movies almost every day. My buddy Joe Tasillo, shout out to Joe if he ever listens to this. I don't know. He's still a fan. He's my good buddy. He used to run the movie theater in Poughkeepsie. And so all I had to do is go in and ask for Joe. He was the manager. And we could go see movies for free every day of the week. Amazing. And so when you're a kid and you have nothing to do every day, you see every movie out. So when I say I saw every single Arnold Schwarzenegger movie the day it came out, we had a first day club. You had to see every movie on the first day or you're off the team. And it was like me, Mark, and one of Mark's friends, Brian Hyla. And I remember like we'd race against the clock because sometimes we'd come home from the gym and be like, oh my God, it's like, the movie's at 2:45 and it's 2:30 right now and it's a half an hour to get to the mall. Can we make it? Like, of course we can, and we'd drive super unsafe and fast, get to the mall, park, get out. My friend worked in the movie theater, so I'd call him on the way or whatever. And then, or call him, actually we had to call him before we left because we didn't even have cell phones then.
Cell phones.
And but everybody used to answer their phone. That was the difference. Like people actually used to answer
before caller ID.
Yeah. And so we would like race. And I remember what was ironic is that we barely just made it in time to see Speed. Remember the first Speed movie? It was so ironic because that's what the whole movie was. And we're like, this whole movie is like our adventure to get here on time, But we had this first day club, and Mark and I go in to see Braveheart. And in the very beginning of the movie, it starts out with like this beautiful scenery of Scotland, and it's like Sons of Scotland people will tell you I'm a liar, but history has been written by those who have hung heroes, right? And then it's like a young shire of this farm, William Wallace, and blah, blah, blah. And then William Wallace, as a little boy, speaks. And he's like, I want to go. Like the dad's like, oh, we're going to Macandas to see if the tribes come back or something. And the little kid's like, I want to go. And Mark's like, he looks at me, like Smelly looks at me, and he goes, let's get the fuck out of here. Oh. He's like, I can't take the kids were talking. He's like, I can't take this accent. And he's like, we should just leave. And I'm like, we're just starting, right?
How old are you guys at this time? You are, and he is?
It's 1995, so let's do the math. I don't know. I was born in 72.
Okay, so you're...
22? 23? something like that.
23, and he's probably 21.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we're young, right?
Yeah.
And Mark's like, let's get the hell out of here. I'm like, no, let's just hang out for a minute, right? And we hang out, and I remember when they slit his wife's throat.
Oh yeah. Oof.
Mark just looks over at me and goes, this is going to be the best movie ever. He's like I knew
Yeah.
the first thing they teach you in film school is you can't kill off the main character because then you don't have any movie. And so when I'm like, well, she can't really be like, they didn't just do that, did they? Like they broke a rule of cinema. You can't kill off because they invested so much time into the love story.
Yeah.
And you didn't really know why. Like, why would you invest all this time? It'd be like investing all this time in Adrian and she dies in a car accident before the fight. But if that was what triggered him to win the fight, that would change the trajectory of that whole movie, right? So it's like, what's so interesting is the writer chose as a device to spend the time, and nobody would ever do this nowadays. Like cinema is over the way that it used to be, right? Like people wouldn't take the time to build that beautiful relationship with the woman and then just kill it.
Right.
But they killed it to get to him, you know?
Right.
And it's just such an awesome film, you know?
So okay, and then correct me if I'm wrong, but on the premises, so did this start as a revenge for him and then turned into something greater? And then when did it make that turn?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, when he went and killed that lord, that was out of revenge, right?
Oh yeah,
That was
yeah.
honor and revenge. When did it turn into him? Willing to be killed
Well,
the way he was.
it's the call to action. It's a very typical story, just like Luke Skywalker, right? Like he kind of wants to go, but he kind of doesn't want to go. Like he kind of want, you know, it's always the reluctant hero.
Right.
So they come to William Wallace before that, and they ask him, "Hey, look, they hung all these people. They killed your father. You need to come fight." And he says, "No, I'm not. I'm here to raise crops and blah blah blah." And then the guy said, "Well, if you're actually serious about that, you can marry my daughter." And so he marries the daughter, and his whole idea is to be a farmer.
Right.
But then they kill her, and he's like, "I can't just be a farmer."
Because he had already done his fighting. He had come home to retire and normalize again.
Well, he wasn't a fighter. He was young, and he went off and did all this training with his uncle.
Did they not go do fights?
They didn't go to battle or anything. They were like, you know, just
scholars.
But he learned how to fight from his uncle. Like, remember, his uncle takes him away.
Got you.
He says, "I'm your uncle, Argyle," you know, and then he takes him away. And that film is just amazing to me. So that would probably be my second favorite movie of all time. And then like the third one it's always up for grabs. Like I love the original Star Wars trilogy. To me, I think it's a lot more than like a popcorn movie.
I agree.
That's just a true hero story. It's so cool. If you watch the trajectory of like Luke Skywalker from Star Wars into like Return of the Jedi, it's so dope. And it's like when the coolest thing, I get goosebumps every time I watch it, is when he's training to be a Jedi, because that's what we're doing in here every day, you know? And when he goes, "I'm not afraid," and Yoda just looks at him, and Yoda just turns really evil. He goes, "You will be. You will be." He has like his teeth come out. And you're like, oh my God, like Yoda is so horrifying in that scene. But it reminds me, honestly, like that's Louis Simmons to me. Like that's that's Louis Simmons. That's the old guy saying like, you know, you don't know. Slow down, little young man. You don't know. Slow down. Shut up. Keep your mouth shut. You don't know. And you don't believe yet. And when you believe and you know, then I'll let you out of here. And Yoda never lets him off the hook. Like he keeps saying, "Oh, I can't do it. I can't do it." And Yoda, you know, that's when he says like, "There is no do or do not. There is no try," which is like one of the greatest statements ever. So like these things that have been ingrained in our head, like people, why do you train every day? Well, because I watched these movies when I grew up. And instead of sinking myself into comic books, or like Mark and I never got the connection. Why would people read comic books and go eat Doritos? Don't you want to be the superhero you're looking at?
Right.
You know, and that's just the way we took it. And I don't know, I think people thought we were crazy because they'd say, "That's how you take it?" Like, no, superheroes are like unreal. They're not real. And I'm saying, well, I think they are real. I think you can be one. Like, I think you can make yourself one.
You know, I mean, just to give you this might seem silly and this might be an odd non sequitur to you, but I remember being in the Army. We were at the battalion, the colonel's office, okay, the battalion's headquarters, garrison or whatever, and literally I saw a guy get sent off to special forces school with that line. I think the colonel wasn't around, but the lieutenant colonel showed up to wish him well, and he says, and in the words of Yoda, do or do not, there is no try. You are going to go make it through special, at the time they were called Green Berets. I don't think they're called that anymore.
Yeah.
But that's an iconic line.
Yeah.
And men have been inspired, like you and your brother, to go and achieve greatness from that. It is more than just a popcorn film.
I think Gladiator's another one.
Mm-hmm.
Just an amazing film. A lot of great quotes. A lot of cool things. It's a little bit. It's hard for me to put Gladiator in there because I feel like Gladiator was like more. Gladiator is the. I don't want to say this because I don't really want to put it down. But to me, it's like a pop band, like a boy band. It's like they put together all the best elements. It's like Braveheart was successful, and they're like, hey, let's make this about this different empire. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's almost like unoriginal in its vision, in its like original vision, but an incredible movie. So like I don't mean to put it down at all. I know people are gonna get mad if I put it down. But I guess you know what I'm saying is like they took the best director, Ridley Scott. They took the best actors like Russell Crowe and Orlando Bloom, and like they had like the best cast and crew and the best people. And whereas like it seemed like Braveheart came out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like no one was expecting it.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a big, it was I don't know, it was shot in Australia or something like that. But whatever. It was just such an original thing that I just really loved it. And then I'd say in my like closing out that the top three, it's like, well, you throw Star Wars in there, maybe you throw Indiana Jones in there, maybe those movies are great. Like the first Raiders of the Lost Ark is like absolutely incredible. If you go back and watch that, the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, not so great, but the Last Crusade was really awesome.
Do you mind if I throw in a couple of my favorite ones that didn't?
I got to get through. I got to get through first. I got a top three that's got like 5 or 6 movies in it. And then a movie that defined like jealousy for me, like as a filmmaker, I would love to do something like that, was Fight Club.
Oh yeah.
I think Fight Club was just so fucking cool, man. Like it's so testosterone driven. It's so like, manly, and ironically it's written by a gay guy, the original book, Chuck Palahniuk, who's an amazing author.
Organized chaos,
but
man.
Yeah, it was such a cool movie, man. And the only thing that was weird about Fight Club, if you remember, it came out, I believe, in the same year, like later on, than like The Sixth Sense. And they both had this like false ending.
Yes.
And it kind of made me feel like, I already saw this. But Fight Club's still way up there for me. It's just an amazing film.
People sleep on Sixth Sense and Signs. Maybe not Sixth Sense. I think everyone knew that was great at the time. I liked Signs too, though.
Sixth Sense is like a one or two trick pony, though. You can only watch it like a couple times. You know what Mark and I saw back to back was The Sixth Sense, and then because I have a friend that used to do all the ratings for the movies, and like he worked at a company that would, rank all the movies, and so he had to go see them all early.
Okay.
So we somehow saw the Sixth Sense back to back with Austin Powers, the first one.
Oh, what a wow! That's
But Mark
good.
and I saw Austin Powers like a month early, and we told everybody. You're like, you wait till this movie comes out, you're gonna love it. It's
so
amazing.
funny.
But it's also like go into comedies. Like that's another category. Like what are the best comedies?
That's
right?
in like top 5 comedies. I
Dumb and Dumber.
Dumb and Dumber. I will. I know I'm in the minority, but I contest Old School is the funniest comedy of all time.
Old School is amazing. You also got to contend with like they're stupid, but they're amazing. Like the Airplane and Naked Gun
Those are great. Yeah.
kind of films, right? And Spaceballs. I mean, everything that Elon Musk does is based on Spaceballs. Hot Shots.
Hot Shots do.
Hot Shots Part 2.
It's incredible.
It's one of Mark's favorite movies.
Well, he's got great taste.
So you know the best scene in Hot Shots Part 2?
Remind me.
They're on an aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
And Lloyd Bridges' hat goes flying off. And he's like, whoa, my cap blew off. And and they're like, what do you want us to do about it? And he's like, turn around, let's go pick it up. They're in an aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
And He's like, sir, that would take forever. Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, tries to explain him like how it wouldn't be, practical. And he goes, send Rabinowitz down on a lifeboat. We'll catch it on the way back. Do I have to think of everything around here? It's just such a stupid
So great.
movie. I remember he's dipping his like in Rambo when they like dip their hands in glue. So they dip their hands in glue and then they dip them in glass and then they fight.
Yes.
But then in Hot Shots they dip them in like honey or something, and then they dip it in like gummy bears.
Yeah,
and,
like Skittles.
Yes,
stuff
a
like
bunch
that.
of dumb shit.
Fantastic. So great. That I think of all those parody movies, that is my favorite one.
Well, the
Police
Will
Academy's
Ferrell,
great.
you got to go with your old school riff. Is like Will Ferrell, like Talladega Nights is so stupid, but it's amazing.
Yes.
Step Brothers, so stupid, but it's incredible.
I think his peak for my money, his peak was old school. I've never almost passed out laughing before. I've told you this before probably. That montage from when they were
Master of Puppets?
The Master of Puppets montage to the rooftop of the big boy getting yanked down off the top. I literally literally the world started closing in on my vision because I just couldn't stop laughing and was losing my breath. It was incredible.
Yeah, being in LA, living in LA, and having buddies that my buddy coaches basketball team, so of course you're gonna have celebrity kids on your team.
Sure.
And one of the kids that was on and you get to talk to the parents because they're in the crowd. So one of the parents was the guy that wrote Old School. His name's Court. I forget his last name, but he was always at all the games, so I would get to talk to him. And it's hard to talk to somebody and not be like, "Hey man, remember Old School? That was awesome."
That was awesome.
You know what I mean? It's hard to talk to him without bringing it up, but I would bring it up to him. He was cool about it. Like he got it. Like, yeah, I know it's awesome. Wedding Crashers was another awesome movie.
It was very funny.
It's weird. It's like I tell people this all the time. Things don't have to be a good movie. Like it's not a good movie. Wedding Crashers is almost like a big long skit, but it's great. Yeah. It's like it's hilarious, right? So like as a whole story, does it really hold together that great? Not really, but the comedy in it's great, and that's all that really matters. And they're not really making any movies like that anymore. I haven't seen a funny movie in ages. Remember Superbad, like the original Judd Apatow movies, how good they were? Superbad is an amazing movie. Like the plot of Superbad is so simple. It's like, we need to get alcohol. Yeah. That's the plot of a movie? Yeah. But it's great, man. Yeah. It's the Star Wars or the, Citizen Kane of comedies, like that Superbad.
And it's kind of interesting because it sort of bumps up against the line of that hero's journey, right? That adolescence journey.
If you didn't notice, I mean, like Superbad is a really well-made movie. Yeah. Like it's not, like if you go back and watch that, I mean, it's got character to it. It's got style to it. It's shot really well.
Does Weird Science still hold up for you?
I haven't seen Weird Science in ages. That goes back to the 80s comedies, right? Like there was the, all the John Cusack movies. Yeah. Right? Remember like,
Better Off Dead. Better Off Dead.
Is that my $2? I want my $2.
Yes, and they've removed that movie.
Why?
I think it's too PC, and the whole concept of so much of that.
He wanted to kill himself.
That suicidal idolization in that movie was such a part of the story. I think it's not on Prime. It's not. They have deleted that from history books, and it's a shame. It's a travesty because it's an incredible movie.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High is it's like weird. It's like Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Dazed and Confused. Like not that funny necessarily, but like really cool movies that make you think back to like when you were in Ferris Bueller's Day Off is pretty funny.
I'm so glad you said that.
That's really funny and it's good.
Yes.
Like it's a great, like what a great plot. Your dad takes off and like of course you're gonna take all his shit.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. There's a genre you haven't hit on yet that I wonder you being such an alpha personality hits you the same as me, more of your standard beta cuck.
Like sci-fi?
No.
Or westerns?
It's the underdog's journey, right? Forrest Gump.
Well, Rocky.
I mean,
that's the ultimate underdog story.
It's true. Forrest Gump, I think, is special.
Forrest Gump is an amazing film. I keep telling people that Mark and I are like the Forrest Gumps of fitness. Okay. Because we've met everybody in the business. We've been on, like, we just rub elbows. Like, we're lucky in that way. Right. But then it sounds so stupid because people are like, oh, yeah, The Rock. We're like, yeah, I know him. And then like, oh, yeah, this happened with, whatever. Right. And we just end up knowing the people all the time, because we've been around this forever, and it feels like Forrest Gump, like feels like everything's like a lie because we know everybody. It's like I always think people are gonna think I'm full of shit.
Have you ever seen this movie, Gattaca?
I saw that a long time ago.
I think it's incredible.
I would have to watch that again because I don't really remember.
I watched it about a month ago. I think it even holds up.
What's it about? I forget.
It's a dystopian society, but it's not necessarily dystopian for everybody.
Somebody was just talking about this the other day too.
But if you're not made in if you're not cooked, CRISPR cooked, and they don't get the perfect egg with the perfect sperm cell and make like the best version of the donors, then you're not going to be successful in that society. And they've got it down to they can lab test you and find out your IQ, your heart, risk of heart attack and all that sort of stuff. And only the elites that were basically manufactured in a lab have any success. And it's about a guy who wasn't. He was naturally born and yet rose.
He's natty.
He was natty. He was natty in a PED world, and yet he still, through perseverance and hard and will, he made it. He made it. It's
I'll have to check it out.
It's great, Chris. It's great.
I believe I saw that a long time ago, I want to say, but maybe I haven't even seen it. I don't know. I might be lying to myself. You reminded me of something though when you said about the guy who was different than everybody else. Remember 300? Like they had that mutant guy, and he got like cast out, right? Like but that's another what a fantastic, interesting,
great movie
way to tell a story. I remember going to see 300. I was with my ex-girlfriend, and she just always took forever to get ready. She was, always doing her hair, and it would take forever. I'm like, oh, come on, let's go. We got to go. I kept telling her, let's go. And so we got to the theater, and I'm like, oh my God, it's packed. We're at the Man Chinese Theater in Hollywood, and there's a line all the way around the building to get in. And you could buy tickets early back then. I think I had bought tickets, but there was no reserved seating.
There's still the waiting line.
Yeah, well,
there's still you can't avoid the line.
And there's no reserved seating. So if you get in last, you're done.
Yeah.
So what do? I'm like, quick thinking. I'm like, oh yeah, I just had hip surgery. I have my crutches in the back. Maybe I can limp my way in.
Do that. That's the move.
I want to say, I don't want to sound terrible, but I don't think I needed my crutches anymore.
They helped.
But
they helped that day.
But I said, hey, let's go. And I hobbled into the theater and I said, hey, I just had hip surgery. Guy goes, oh, come right in. And he escorted me in and sat us in the best seats in the theater that were like these handicap seats.
Yeah, right.
And I said, well, if somebody comes in a wheelchair, I'm gonna get out. I'm gonna get out of here or something. If somebody comes in that needs a seat, I'm gonna get out of here. But
walk out.
But yeah. Well, you know what though? I had to live the gimmick because I had to go get my girlfriend wanted concessions, and she's the type of girl. It's like I'm not going up there by myself. I'm little. I'm gonna get and then if I leave, somebody's gonna take the seats. Right. I'll just sit here. Yeah. So I'm like, I gotta go get the shit. So I gotta go get them. But I gotta get it with the crutches. Yep. Otherwise, I'm not living the gimmick.
Yep.
So
that's so great.
Hey, call me terrible,
but good work, Chris.
Yeah, we did it. Man Chinese Theater. I've seen many great movies at Man Chinese Theater. Which brings me to another movie that actually should be in my top 3. I would put this over Fight Club for sure is Pulp Fiction. I can't leave Tarantino out of the mix of my top movies.
I may have never seen that from start to finish.
You have to watch it from start to finish.
I'm ashamed to admit that. You're right. You're right.
It is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
It's so involved. Yeah.
I can't handle much Quentin Tarantino though. I've watched his interview with Joe Rogan, and we have a mutual agreement. Him and I, we had he was talking to Joe, but he was talking to me. He said, no, seriously. He said, I make great art that's very, very intense and graphic. I understand some of you that's going to be too much for, and I don't expect you to watch it, and you shouldn't expect me to not make it. And I said, agreed. Your shit is great. I can't handle Reservoir of the Dogs. I can't handle that scene where he goes after the ears. That's too much for me. I can't handle the Jew bear
but the way that they do it is brilliant.
I know.
So it's like the guy.
It's masterful.
Well, the guy's ear, right? And the way that they do it is like the camera just goes over, and you don't see any of it.
I can't handle. who are the guys? It's an old one. Oh, the weird outfits that put he's got the toothpicks in his eye.
Clockwork Orange.
I can't handle Clockwork
That's a
Orange.
great film.
I know. I agree, and I allow you to do that art as long as.
What about Shawshank Redemption too?
Oh, can't. I don't go. I don't.
Wait, Shawshank Redemption?
First rule of Russell in.
You can't go to prison?
First rule of Russell in film entertainment: Russell doesn't go to movies to get sad.
Oh, you got sad? I mean, that's kind of an underdog.
I thought I would. I mean, isn't it about those poor people in the German?
No, that's Schindler's List.
Oh, so what are you saying?
Shawshank Redemption is about the guy escapes from prison.
I love Shawshank Redemption.
It's amazing.
But Shawshank Redemption approached my threshold. Those prison scenes.
Yeah.
I had to go. Ooh.
Well, my ex-girlfriend Lauren, she can't eat a roast beef sandwich anymore because she was a little girl eating a roast beef sandwich when she was watching Pulp Fiction, and the scene comes on where one guy rapes the other guy, and so she just can't stop. Like I think she threw up from the scene because she was little. She was young, probably too young to be watching it, but her parents never cared what she watched, and and so she said she was like watching Pulp Fiction with her sister, eating a roast beef sandwich, and like one guy is raping the other guy, and I think she just had it in. She couldn't do it.
Oh my God. Oof.
So she couldn't watch that movie anymore, and she couldn't eat a roast beef sandwich.
Two great things taken.
Yeah.
Too early.
Yeah, I think I honestly think Tarantino is one of like the great geniuses of our time. I think that he'll be way more appreciated when he's gone and when he's done, and he's supposedly done after this next movie.
Yeah.
I think he's got like one more in him, right? That he's gonna make. He's gonna make like 10 studio movies. But if you go back and watch Kill Bill, you watch anything that he's done, there's so many layers to it.
Yeah.
I wish they would have made Kill Bill one movie and cut it down to an hour and 40 minutes, and it would just be sick. But they stretched it out in like 2 movies, and there's like it's almost like too much.
How does the first one end? How does Kill Bill?
I don't even remember because there's too much going on in it. Right. But like they leave you hanging, and then they come back, for the second.
Do you feel like that's a little bit like?
I'd have to go back and watch. I actually just watched it again, but I didn't watch the whole thing. I watched like the first hour. I tend to do that with a lot of rewatches, where I'll just watch like the first hour again. One of my favorites of all time that we haven't mentioned, when I was younger, I don't think it holds up as well, but the story's amazing, is Terminator 2.
That's a good movie.
That's fantastic.
That was a great movie. That was a fun movie. I'm not necessarily coming out of that with any philosophical changes in life, but
I don't know. I mean, look at what's going on right now, and look at how that talks about all these things that Joe Rogan talks about.
Well, I mean, that's how I feel about that Gattaca movie. Like it foreshadows a very scary future in some ways.
People will argue, debate. I thought Avatar was a great film. I thought it was great in like 3D in the theater. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's just, Pocahontas retold or whatever. I'm like, I don't even know. I've never even seen Pocahontas, so I don't care. I thought Avatar was a great movie because I'm essentially have a lot of handicaps. Like I'm in pain all the time. I got fake hips. And I'm like, you know what? I would dive into a body that was healthy. Like, I just wish one day I could know what it felt like to be in that body, to be in, into something that doesn't hurt. Right. And so I just really identified with that movie.
Did you ever see Ready Player One?
Yeah, I like that too. I mean, that's where we're going, right?
That's where we're going. I mean, it was interesting, not to try to hijack your podcast, but, I put that post up about that kid on the beach and the VR goggles and so forth, right? And it kind of triggered me or whatever. The next day I talked to my son about that. I was like, what does this picture mean to you? What are, and he goes, well, it looks like he's out. And this is what my 13-year-old said, who loves video games. He goes, well, it looks like he's out, enjoying the heat, enjoying the warmth, enjoying the wind, enjoying the smells of the ocean, but he's probably getting a bigger bang for his buck visually in those goggles, and hopefully and it looks like he's meditating, is what my son said. It looks like he's meditating. And I asked him, I said, well, that's a pretty awesome interpretation of that. I mean, because we all agree meditation's valuable. But I said, but what's the good and the bad about that? He goes, well, the good is it's awesome. He's seeing some really visually cool things, awesome. But the bad is stuff that him and I have talked about before, is that the that the digital world becomes too appealing and it starts leaving the real world in the dust. And then we talk about the, you know,
I,
the Wally ramifications, where
you know,
all the people in the movie Wally are just super obese because they're so plugged in digitally, they stop moving physically.
it's interesting to me because I try to play games now, and I just think they all suck. Like maybe I'm just like got too old for it or outgrew it, but like I try to play games. It takes forever to start a game
Yeah,
on any console.
yeah,
You're like, okay, let's go, let's
yeah.
go. Like I want to play the game, right? And like they have all these consoles that are all pumped up, and it still takes a long time
I
to
think
load
I
things.
think I found a game the other day
Right.
I thought you would like.
And,
Elders Creek.
well,
You'd like
I
Elders
just
Creek.
like it's really hard for me to find a game where I'm like, this is way better than real life.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And
right.
but when I was a kid, and maybe it's a kid's perception also. I felt like you know, I remember like Nintendo wasn't that good, but it was cool enough to play a couple games and then go outside and play with my brothers.
Yeah,
And then I think it got to the point where everything is so complex and cool, and you got to play these games for like the games got so complex that they take days and months to finish. So it's like you could put way more time into it. Like you could only put so much time into Nintendo Kung Fu. You only had 4 levels, and you just
Well,
kick people off the
I
the
don't.
ledge.
I'm not so hard. I'm not so hard on these kids. So I think we have modified our society to be afraid to let your kids be outside anymore.
Yeah.
Kids aren't allowed to go outside and play anymore in so many up until such an age that they're not even really a kid anymore. Like now,
Well, they're totally allowed to, but nobody lets them.
dude, CPS. You hear stories of the 11-year-old had CPS called on him because he was at the park and he was at the park unsupervised. I mean, back when I was 11, we would go miles and miles to the lake, and now CPS gets called on people being at the park across the street. We're all afraid our kids are going to get kidnapped. It's a different story for a different day, a conversation for a different
Yeah,
time.
it's crazy because it is like actually so rare. I think it's the news has scared us into that.
The
It's
news-
actually very, very rare.
Yes.
I mean, your kid has as much chance being struck by lightning. It doesn't mean that you should put your kid in those bad situations, but also people are so scared of it that it's at the expense of the child.
This is what 24-hour news cycles where there's industries that live off of rattling sabers and getting people nervous exist off.
Yeah,
of
exactly. It's all fear based, and it's like you as a parent need to be afraid your kid,
Yep.
can't go outside and all that stuff like that.
Or afraid your neighbor's going to call and tell on you and get the police to come knock on your door and do a welfare check. That's part of it also.
Well, like we talked about with like Liver King, right? Like
exactly.
He's trying to just get his kids like eat good and do a little bit of training. And I think, what I said to you on your post, I think if you're going to give your kid something that they don't need, something that they want but they don't need, like as a parent, you're obliged to give them like food and shelter, right, and those basic necessities. Outside of that, I think it's fair game to ask your kid to do anything for what they want outside of that. Like if you want to go get ice cream, you got to take out the garbage. If you want, to do blank with your friends, like, hey, you got to do this first or whatever. And it's like, are you going to call the school and tell the teacher, I can't believe you gave my kid homework. How dare you?
Right.
How dare you give him homework?
Right.
And they're like, well, what are you talking about? Like, I'm calling Child Protective Services on you. You're making him do something he doesn't want to do.
You feel like talking about this much more? Because I have something I want to ask you and see what you
Sure.
think about this. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about social media and kids, right? You have the Gary Van Nye opinion. This is the future. You need to indoctrinate your kid into this early and show them how to navigate it and become bulletproof to the potential pitfalls of social media. And then you have or don't let them be exposed to it at all. I think part of the problem is, I was just thinking, my son now, my youngest, who is about to turn 9, I let him go outside now, right?
Mhm.
But he's been playing video games since he was like 3 or 4. So he is that had such a head start on his interest. Maybe as parents, the more responsible thing would have been, don't let your kids even get into video games.
Yeah,
until they're 13.
why do you even have them?
Because because not everybody has a very big house, and once there's older siblings, the youngers get exposed to it You can't. There's we waited for the younger one.
Yeah.
Or the older one. But he aged out. He aged
But,
into it, and then the younger
your
got
kids
cut his
playing
weight.
video games is because you gave them to them. That's the bottom line is
No, of
that
course, but
it always going to fall back on the parent no
it's
matter
always
what.
parental responsibility.
So
I agree, but
you did make a decision to put it in front of them and to let them have it.
well, but we made a decision to put it in front of the older one, and the younger one just sort of gets caught up in the gravity of the situation.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, it's simplistic to say you did that, but it's also factually correct.
Well,
But
it's factually, yeah.
so to the next thing, this is really what I'm really asking you. One of my elder son's best buddies just got a Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. Like, do you think we should be? What age do you think kids should be exposed to that sort of thing? Being a man of social media that has a big following and posts occasionally, do you think there's a line for that?
I definitely do. I don't think kids should be on it at all. I mean, I think it should be like 18 years old to be on there.
Yeah, I mean, I really feel like 15, 16
I think it's
before we let
damaging.
Ryan get into any of that stuff, right? I agree.
I don't think that it's any good. Like I haven't seen any good come out of it.
And I mean, suicide's up.
If
a
your
lot of things,
kid
girls
is
are
a
struggling.
superstar,
Yeah.
like just a flat out like we have a kid in our family, April's son Hamish. He's a ham. Like he could talk on camera all day. If I wanted to make him a TikTok star, he's like 11 or 10. I could go out and I could make that kid a star by just filming him. But like, do you really want to expose a kid to that? Like this kid knows everything about gun safety. Imagine I just film him about gun safety. How crazy that would go on the internet, and how many.
He could be the Cameron Hain of 11-year-olds of some sort, right?
Exactly, but he actually knows. He legit
Right. So
knows.
does Cameron Hain.
It is crazy to hear him talk about gun safety and all the things that you need to do. And you're like, well, that's really cool, man. A young kid, like a really little kid, he knows all these things and how to be safe around guns, and other kids should know that. But at the same time, like now you're subjecting this kid to like, could you imagine the comments that would come back? And if he, obviously probably not operating his own social media at that point, but if he reads those comments about, like people would be crazy about stuff like that, and they would write bad crazy comments that a kid can't handle. So this
is where I'm going to. So you're reading my mind and you're taking me down the thought pattern. I need someone to help figure this out. So is that of the Gary Van Nine? You have to learn how to navigate social media.
Who's Gary Van Nine? Gary Vaynerchuk? Gary V.
Gary V. My God, dude, I'm so bad with names.
All right.
I'm sorry, Gary.
I get what he's saying.
Do we all eventually learn just to post and ghost at any phase of social media? Is kind of what I'm at.
You know what? And that's like unhealthy too, because I feel I've gotten into this unhealthy post and ghost thing. Like I don't really respond anymore. And what I used to be all about is like, hey, you can get in touch with me. Now I'm like, you can't get in touch with me. Like, like I'm not gonna return your message. I'm not. It's like because I've gotten so many negative messages that I'm like, you know what? I don't care. I don't care to help people anymore, which is really, really sad. I'm like, I'll care to help people by putting out the information, and I'll help people every day in real life. But when it comes to, writing tips and this and that, like I rarely will respond to the
hey brother, it's my life
comments.
mission to put out a work that you can draw for. I can't interact one-on-one with people anymore. Is that kind of, you're at that phase of your,
I don't want to. I feel like I know way more than most other people do, and I feel that all the comments can be explained away. Like any comment that somebody writes to me or anything that they try to say to me, I have a way to explain it to them, like why I do what I do. You know what I mean? Like I'm not doing anything or saying anything wrong. If somebody comes at me and like, oh, information is wrong, I can show you where I got it from. I can show you where I found it. Or it's just something I believe. And if it's something I believe, hey, that's me versus you. Like I do a lot of things where I say, I don't even know if this works. I did a video yesterday on my Instagram about grounding, like walking and grounding. And I've read a lot of the research saying that it really helps with inflammation and pain, but it also helps with anxiety and depression and all these other things, just to be grounded to the earth, to walk on the surface of the earth with your own bare feet on grass. And I don't know if that works or not. But what I'm saying is like, I'm doing this. And if somebody wants to write like, hey, you're an idiot for thinking that works, well, how does that help anybody? And that's where I've gotten to a point where I'm like, everything I post, somebody has something to say about it. Like, oh, now you're jumping on this bandwagon. It's like, listen, we started a lot of this shit. There's no bandwagons around here. You know, when I said about the Liver King last time, you go back and look at my post, and like 5 years ago, I'm posting about liver. So it's like
Yeah.
the things that people say will make you not want to respond
and
to
it's
them.
such a low ratio. I remember
It is a very low ratio.
it's
That's the problem too.
it's
Yeah.
1 out of 20, 1 out of 10 are they're gonna throw a little mud at you, but that seems to be enough to make you not want to participate in that. I don't want to put up a picture of my dinner to people.
They're gonna judge it.
I'm gonna get about 8 or 9. Yeah, fuck yes, good job, attaboy hearts. But there's gonna be one guy, that's not the meat you should be eating, or
Yeah.
where's the broccoli, and it's usually
I don't mind engaging in real conversations at all.
Right.
If somebody says like, "Hey, look, Chris, you should go look at all these studies on grounding. It's actually bullshit, and it doesn't do anything, and you're wasting your time." I would say, please send them to me. You know, like I'd like to see that. I don't know where to find it. Like, you know, I'm not an expert on everything. I'm not an expert on anything. All I am is somebody that is curious and goes and researches a lot of things. But oftentimes I find that Mark and I are at the absolute cutting edge of almost everything. Like we are constantly searching for what's new. And so when people say, "Oh, you're jumping on a new bandwagon," yes, we are, because these bandwagons is how you progress. You have to jump on people's bandwagon in a way, right? Like, so if somebody's talking about, you know, I've been talking about barefoot shoes, and I know people have been talking about that for years. Well, I just personally, you know, came across it because my feet were hurting so bad, and I've tried everything else, and I'm like, all right, well, let me just try this. I heard a lot of people talk about it, and I find it to be very helpful and very effective. So I'm going to talk about it regardless of whether somebody's going to say, "Oh, now you're jumping on this bandwagon," or like, I think a lot of people think that you're always trying to sell something, and that's a big problem, you know? Like, you can't just be a dude on social media. Like, I have 100,000 followers. I don't make money on any of the shit that I'm selling, right? We said that on the last podcast. And it's crazy how people want to associate that with whether or not they should, like, use something, right? Like, do you believe me and trust me? Like, people think, I saw that Andrew posted the other day on Twitter that for Mark's podcast, for Mark Bell's Power Project, he posted, you know, people are calling us sellouts already for doing a podcast with the Liver King that hasn't even come out yet. Right. And it's like, so before it even comes out, people like you guys are sellouts. And I think that's like, that kind of stuff is so ridiculous.
Sellouts would be if you started selling magnetic bracelets.
Yeah.
Unless you found out some new cutting edge science shit that actually shows, oh no, actually they work, and this is why we know. Or you say, I know it's empirical, but my own experience is so compelling. I started wearing these magnetic bracelets around my ankle. It's so compelling. I have to say that there could be something to this.
And one of the things I actually wanted to talk about that can help a lot of people, the last thing we'll talk about is something that, you know, everybody was saying, oh, the Liver King's on steroids and blah, 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 right? I don't know if he is or not. I don't care if he is or not, but I am on testosterone replacement therapy, and I don't see any problem with it. I do get the idea. I do get why people get mad. They think that people like Michael Hearn and the Liver King and all these guys are taking a bunch of steroids and then promoting a product. That has gone on since the beginning of time. That has gone on with every single bodybuilder you're a fan of. It's gone on with every single fitness person you're a fan of. They're all doing that. And so if a couple guys are getting away with saying that they're natty and they're really not, I'm like, I think we should be listening to people's messages, right? Like, what's the overall message, right? Mm-hmm. Rather than like, I mean, just assume they all do. Like, just assume they all take it. Like, I'm not going to sit here and defend Liver King because I don't know. So I just assume everybody probably did something. You know what I mean? My mom always said that everybody's on something, you know, including her. She would say that I get pills for my anxiety, you know? Mm-hmm. But that's what's, you know, so that's one thing. But anyway, regardless of that, the reason why I'm on testosterone replacement therapy is because I went and got my hormones checked. And I wasn't feeling well. And when I went and got my hormones checked, I realized that my testosterone was very low and my estrogen was very high. And that's not helpful for anything I'm trying to do. And so at 49 years old, you're trying to build muscle, you're trying to get stronger, you're working out all the time. It actually wouldn't make sense to not be on testosterone if your testosterone is low. if your testosterone's already, above 800, say, then like maybe you don't need it. But even if it's over 500, it's okay. You're probably okay. But I think that everybody should get their testosterone levels checked. I think everybody should get a blood panel done of some sort. I think everybody needs to be looking at this stuff because, we have a guy in the gym that I love, and his arm was going numb the other day, and he's overweight. He's like, "Hey, my arm keeps going numb," and I'm like, "Listen, man, I don't mean to scare you, but you need to get checked out. Like that's a sign of a heart attack or a stroke." And I'm not saying that you're going to have one of those, but I'm saying like there's a reason why your arm is going numb, and it just started happening. Like if he said, "Oh, this has happened forever," I'd be like, "It's probably some weird genetic thing." And I'm concerned about people, right? So I just want them to go get checked out, right? I think that it's normal for every male to go to the doctor and get this stuff checked on. And again, not be afraid of what people think about it. Not be afraid of like a lot of people, even including my dad. My mom didn't want my dad to be on testosterone because she didn't know anything about it. And so my mom kind of stopped him from being on it. And when she passed away, one of the first things my dad did was get on testosterone. And, now he's feeling great, moving around better. He's better off. So he's leading a better quality of life on testosterone than he is
Similar
off.
experience for me.
What's your experience?
My wife and I, we argued over this. She shut down my initial interest in getting on, TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, and I actually let her win that argument for a good year or two. And then finally, I got to the point where I said, "Hey, listen, I know you haven't become informed on this, and I think that's what's bothering me. You are just giving me a very uninformed opinion and being very dogmatic about it. I have checked this out, and every time I've ever been in the hospital with you and the doctor recommended something, I've never once stepped in and said, hey baby, I don't think you should do that. You always had, this ironic right now with what the courts just did, right? You've had sovereignty over what you do. Why are you trying to take that away from me? If I said we can have this discussion again once you go become informed." And she went and became informed, and then she realized, oh yeah, this is actually beneficial for you. And I got on testosterone, and within 2 or 3 months, she's like, "I see you're different now. Your energy's back." Dude, we were talking about before the podcast started. Hey, Mr. Limpy Dick kind of went away, right?
Yeah. So it's better for your relationship that you're on testosterone, correct?
Absolutely.
And you're not getting crazy mood swings. You're not, getting these. You're not taking trenbolone.
No, I'm on a very modest dose, but it's an effective modest dose.
Do you know how much you take a week?
170.
170. That's about where I am. And it's funny because I'll post a thing on Instagram, right? People are like, "Oh, you must be on the juice," and it's like, yeah, I am on the juice, and I love it. I think it's great. In Bigger, Stronger, Faster, Mark said, "I love steroids. I'll probably be on and off them forever," and I don't think there's been a truer statement in a documentary. So far, he has been on and off them forever. Mm-hmm. He went off of them. He had his baby girl, Quinn, who's now 14 years old and a lot taller than me. Almost, I think, taller than Mark, too, now. Crazy.
I have to be very upfront with you. I am considering going deeper into the pool. Maybe not into the the diving side, but maybe I've seen too much in front of my face. If you're responsible, it seems to be pretty effective.
Well, what do you mean by deeper into the hole?
I don't know. We'll have to talk about that as things get revealed. I don't know. I don't think I'm not trying to become Larry Wheels.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to become Nick whatever is Walker or whatever his name.
Yeah, Nick Walker.
Good looking kid that's gigantic.
I love him. Yeah.
But maybe a little more than a little. Maybe a little more than a little.
Yeah, I think what you have to consider is that you're so steroids are going to make you bigger. That's kind of a problem. Right?
Because I got to lose weight.
Yeah.
Right.
And I honestly think that if you
I'm not thinking just steroids.
Like, well, what else? That's what I'm talking about.
I don't know. I don't know enough about the topic. I would be kind of uninformed from this point. But when we sit down and we just got done talking with
for
Tom,
example, you're on semaglutide,
right?
Which we discussed helps you feel full quicker, right?
We sit down, we talked with Tom last week, right? Mm-hmm. And Tom is openly he's been on performance enhancing drugs for 40 years. Look at Tom.
Yeah.
Seems like Tom can't
But
not
here's
fit.
the thing, and I hate to say this, Tom is probably not very healthy at all if you look at his blood work.
You think so?
I don't know, but I know that he might be right now because he's in great shape. But I know that all those steroids and eating McDonald's every day it's got to be horrible.
I mean, from what More Plates and More Dates, Derek.
And I might be way off. He might monitor it. He might be checking it. But as far as I know, he's the kind of guy that doesn't check any.
What Derek from More Plates and More Dates has taught me is the safest, from listening to him on podcasts and from listening to is that just maybe sometimes just a little more tea is the best way to go. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying I'm not trying to dip into some of this other stuff. Just maybe a little more
I'll
tea.
give you my examples. Like my experience is that the more testosterone I do, the more bloated I get.
Oh, really?
That's how I feel.
See, I probably should just listen to the advice of a doctor. But also,
And then, like, I don't know, when you get your levels checked, like, see where they're at. If they're not, where you want,
I'm still pretty low. I'm still like 450, 500. I'm not.
Yeah,
my
so
T's still pretty low.
So here's what I would say. Because you're a big guy, maybe you do need 200 milligrams or more. Like, maybe even just bumping it up that much would be enough. I don't think the answer is always more. The answer is the answer is always in doing more, which I hate to say. I hate to be the bearer of bad news.
Well, hey, I mean, I'm on a good run right now.
Yeah, I'm on a good run too, and I feel like it's because of all the things I'm doing all together that's why it's a good run. It's not a good run because of testosterone.
Right.
It's a good run because it's a good run because I am eating like liver every morning. I had a ribeye this morning. A lot of times I used to just skip breakfast altogether, but now I'll smash a ribeye or something in the morning a couple times a week to keep my metabolism going. I've been able to eat rice, once or twice a week. I've been able to eat fruit 3 or 4 times a week and just keep getting leaner. Like I weighed in at 198 pounds yesterday for the first time in months. Actually, in like over a year, I weighed in at 198. So my weight is dropping. When I get down to like 190, I start to get dangerous. That's when I start to get lean. When I really look lean. But right now it's just like the only way for me to get down there is to keep. I'm doing about 10 to 15,000 steps. It's kind of a sweet spot in there for me to get lean. I am eating, mostly animal products, mostly things like mainly steak, right, and ground beef and chicken wings and bone marrow and liver and bone broth, a little bit of rice and a little bit of fruit. That's about it, So the diet's really clean. And I use milk for some things. I make protein pudding. That's one of the like little treats I have that's absolutely amazing. Yesterday I made sugar-free butterscotch pudding with vanilla This Is the Way protein in it, and it was fantastic. Mm-hmm. And now I'm thinking I made a big mistake because I did have salted caramel steak shake too with the butterscotch. That might have made magic, but I didn't do it. But you know what? Like little simple things like that. And then also all these foods that I'm talking about, eggs, also pastured eggs, it all helps to support your testosterone. It all helps you to make more testosterone. So eating foods with.
So once you go on TRT though, does all that go out the window once you start introducing?
Well, if you're on TRT, yeah, but if you're not on TRT, that's what I was talking about. Helps you make more testosterone. But if you're on TRT, it will shut down your natural production. But cholesterol is still good for us. It's still in every cell of our body. I don't think neglecting cholesterol for anybody is a great idea in general. But I think I guess just what I wanted to say is that a lot of people ask me about testosterone replacement. They're scared to do it. They're scared to get involved. And I want people to not be scared to get involved. I do work with Derek from More Plates, More Dates, actually through my buddy Smokey that used to manage the gym here. He works for Marek Health, Marek Health. And that's who I go to. And I've been pretty happy with them. Like they did a lot of testing. When I did, I've done TRT before, and I've done some pretty comprehensive labs, but these were the most comprehensive labs that I've ever done. And I actually have like a paperwork they give you back, and funny because I have notes all over this, but you can see this is like a lot of pages of stuff.
Wow.
And this is like all different things on here. Like it says cancer screening. It has like, vitamin status. It's got kidney function. I'm just flipping through some of the things that they go over. And all my stuff, my cholesterol was pretty high, but my triglycerides were really low. So I think I'm good on cholesterol as far as like my good cholesterol. The HDL was like 90 something. And then my LDL was like 177, which is considered high. However, they put me on a drug called ezetimibe, which is not a statin. And there's things like that too that I think people need to know about. There's certain drugs like your blood pressure shouldn't be high. If your blood pressure is high, you should probably be on a medication to bring it down. If your cholesterol is high, there are medications that aren't statins, because we always hear all this bad news about statins, how they weaken you, they make your muscles weaker. Then I go online on Twitter and I read stuff from people that actually bear out the science, and they say, oh, there's no problem with statins. They're very well studied. That's all a lie. I tend to side anti-big pharma. You know what I mean? As much as I can. But I do know through Derek, who's very knowledgeable, if you guys watch More Plates, More Dates, there is a drug called ezetimibe, which can actually lower your so-called bad cholesterol, your LDL cholesterol, with really no side effects. And so you got a guy that's really interested in building muscle like Derek telling you like, hey, there is a drug for your cholesterol that you can take that's not going to, kill your libido. It's not going to kill, like that's what people say on statins. It's not going to make you weaker. And then there's a bunch of other things that you can take as well. Like we just had Dr. Hotchkiss in here, who is also from Merrick Health. And he told me about a drug called telmisartan, which is like a blood pressure medication. My blood pressure tends to run slightly high, not really high. It just sometimes it's a little up. And so he was saying that I could take this drug telmisartan, but what it also will do is work like the SARM cardarine, which when I was taking cardarine, I was real lean. Like it helps you lean out. I don't know exactly what mechanism, but every time the doctors like call or come in here or anything from Merrick, we always think of a new drug that we can get on.
I wonder
because
if that would help with my lymphedemia.
It may. I mean, I have to like. Again,
I know. I shouldn't disrupt.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. My fault.
Well, we're not trying to give like really medical.
My fault, Chris.
No, it's not a big deal at all. I think it actually, a lot of these things may help. But that's why we go to the doctors. Like that's why we go to these guys. But what's nice is that you don't have to go to the doctor anymore. Everything used to be such a pain in the ass. But I got all this information about myself by literally going to a lab, and I went to what is it called? Not Quest. No, the other one, LabCorp. So through Merrick Health, you got to go to a LabCorp lab, and they'll take your blood. And when they take your blood, it takes about a week, and then you get the results back, and then you actually talk to a patient care counselor first. They kind of go over everything with you, and then you talk to a doctor. And then if you need prescriptions, the doctor will write all those prescriptions right when you're on a Zoom call with them, basically, and then you just get a box of stuff, which is really cool. And they send you all the syringes. They send you the Sharps container. They sent me a lot of interesting things. Like I'll go over what I take, actually. So I was put on, by Merrick Health, I was put on testosterone replacement therapy, which is testosterone cypionate. My dosage was 200 a week, and they just kept me at that. They just said, well, that seems to be working for you. They're like, that's a little higher than we normally recommend, but since you're already there, we're just going to, and your levels look good, we're going to keep you there, right? So everything's also based on what your own, like, not based on what I take versus what you take and how much I weigh versus what you weigh. It's how it reacts in your body when you do these labs. And so I'm on testosterone. I'm on DHEA, which is just another hormone that helps support free testosterone. I'm on ezetimibe, which helps lower your blood pressure. I'm on injectable L-carnitine, which is really interesting, which is supposed to help burn fat and help you, utilize energy better. The injectable L-carnitine, I don't feel much from it, but I am kind of getting leaner, and I don't know if that's, part of it as well. I know a lot of bodybuilders take carnitine orally, but you have to take a ton of it in order to get the same amount that you would get by injecting. You have to actually inject kind of a lot of it as well. It's just the way it is. I also am on fish oil. That's another thing that they gave me just because I don't really eat a whole lot of fish, and my omega-3s could be better. And I'm also on a drug called Armor Thyroid. Are you on that, Russell? Are you on a different one?
I'm on.
Cytomel?
I'm just looking it up right now.
Yeah, so I'm on. So Armor Thyroid. What's interesting is what they told me, and I'm not sure if this is true or not because I didn't look this up. They told me that Armor Thyroid. I know it's a combination of both T3 and T4, both of the thyroid hormones. But I believe that it comes from desiccated thyroid from an animal, and it's extracted in such a way that's different than taking just desiccated thyroid. Because I've talked to people that have taken desiccated thyroid, something like maybe the Liver King cells, and they said that that wasn't effective for for their thyroid function. But I don't know too. Like again, I haven't studied that. I haven't looked into it. Maybe I'd have to take a lot of desiccated thyroid over. Like a lot of times these things are extracted and then like really concentrated down.
All I was told is it was bioavailable.
Maybe that's. I'd have to look it up.
From
And
what I'm taking.
excuse me, audience, for not like looking that up before I'm sitting here talking about it. But anyway, what I wanted to say is if anybody out there does want to get checked, we do have a code for Merrick Health. It is just Boar, and that would be 10% off of your labs. And also, let me see here. I think it's 10% off your. I think 10% off your first lab order with the code Boar, and then also I believe it's 10% if you decide to go through and get your stuff from them. If you need stuff, you need stuff, gear, basically is what people call it. But this is just a better way. I mean, look, I've been on steroids. I've experimented with steroids before. The only time I've ever gotten hurt in the gym was me experimenting with steroids. I was taking Trenbolone and Masteron at the same time, and I didn't know what I was doing. And I tore my tricep completely off the bone. It's still deformed. It's the reason why I tore my rotator cuff. It basically ended my lifting career. So anybody out there that's watching and just wants to go off on their own and take steroids, I think it's a stupid idea. You might know what you're doing and be able to get away with it for a little while, but you're probably going to get hurt. You're probably going to end up regretting it. I mean, all these guys, including people like the great Larry Wheels, are regretting a lot of the stuff that they did. Larry Wheels is talking about like training natural now. And, but it's funny because he's training natural, but he's still on TRT, right? Like it's that, like people will never go off this stuff. And that's the real danger of doing steroids when you're young is you're in a vicious cycle. You'll always be on it. You'll always be connected to it. There's no way out. Like once you start injecting your body with exogenous testosterone, there's really no way out, which brings me to my next experiment that I really want to do. And I want to do this with Merrick Health. So we'll see if they're game for it. What I would like to do, probably in the later half of the year, is take a couple months of completely going off testosterone, completely going off any sort of synthetic anything, and just sort of doing what I did with Liver King. And then seeing if my testosterone will come back by doing some of these ancestral tenets, which I'm doing now also. So like, I don't believe anything's gone for good. That's just my belief. Like, I believe, like, why wouldn't my testosterone come back? You're telling me that I took a drug and I ruined it forever? I don't think so. I think if I support my body with the right nutrients, I feel like there's no reason why it shouldn't come back.
So you're saying, like, I've heard this referred
But
to
I might be lying.
thyroidism, like lifestyle and dietary induced low such and such. You
Yeah.
fix the lifestyle, if you fix the diet, how far can you get just off of that, right?
I would be very interested in like just going completely natural and seeing like, do I grow tits? do my arms start to sag? I mean, in all honesty, like most of my life I've been natural, and that's what a lot of people don't understand either. Once you dive into this, like when I made Bigger, Stronger, Faster, I was connected to steroids forever, whether I did them or not. And I didn't really ever take them heavily until I want to say like maybe 2014 when I got out of rehab. I was like, I need to build myself back up. I had a connection. They ended up being like an illegal connection, and I didn't know because it was above board in the beginning, and then everything got to be illegal and crazy. And I'm always open and honest about that kind of stuff, and I had to get out of it. I had to get away from it because the guy ended up going to prison, and he actually just got out recently. But yeah, I mean, having your name connected with something like that is not good, especially when you made a movie that tries to talk openly and honestly about steroids. Next thing you know, like, oh, Chris Bell, went to this company, and I'm like, I did, I did, and it started out legit. It started out basically that it's great. It was called Wellness Fitness Nutrition, and it started out just like one of these clinics, right? You call the clinic, you talk to the doctor, you get on a Zoom call, you do whatever, and then like next thing you know, you're getting steroids. Well, after I never spoke to a doctor, and then all of a sudden I just kept getting shipments of like anything I wanted in the mail. Like, you want trenbolone, you want IGF-1, you want, and I was like, I don't think this is legal, but but what do? You got a hookup. You're like, I'm not gonna like let this run dry. So I ran with it for a good 6 months, and then I had to like tell the dude, like, I can't be associated with you no more, because I can't get in trouble. And what's so crazy is I was actually visiting this guy's gym in Miami with him 2 days before he got arrested. And what's crazy is we had a conversation in his office that I don't know. I don't know if his office was bugged or anything, but we talked about a lot of shit. And I was very careful what I said, because I had a suspicion that this guy might be in trouble.
He was already on the radar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
your suspicion was right, Chris.
I have to say that the guy was always nice to me, and that's how a lot of these things are. It's like, I don't know what the guy's doing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, all I know is that when people are nice to me and offer me things, that you tend to be a little gullible. Like, sure, free juice, I'll take it. Free juice for all my friends. Yeah, why not? Oh, can I hook you up with so-and-so? Sure, I can hook you up with them. They'll want free juice too. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things that you just get caught up in, and you realize, like, I shouldn't make those mistakes,
You don't have to anymore.
No, you don't have to. Now you go to Merrick Health, and they're legit, and they have some really great doctors and really great, people around there, and you don't have to struggle anymore, and it doesn't have to be hard. All you have to do is go to the website, sign up, use the code BOAR, boom, you'll be just so people know the process, right? You will fill out a form online. You'll probably talk to a patient care counselor first, and then they'll have you go in and get blood work. They'll send you an email, and you'll go in and get blood work. And what's beautiful is, like, you just walk into these places, it's already set up. They already have a deal with Merrick Health. So when you walk into LabCorp, you just give them your name, and you're already on the list, and they know you're coming. So they know what to do. It's not hard. You give them your ID, and you're in. And then they take the blood. You wait about a week and a half. You talk to a patient care counselor. They'll go over all your stuff with you, tell you like what's good, what's bad. What's really great is that a lot of people, like my buddy Travis that comes and trains here, he doesn't necessarily want to take testosterone. He's a big dude naturally, and his testosterone's probably pretty good because he's pretty jacked. But he's like, I just want to see where I'm at with everything. I think for like a guy like that, he's a firefighter. I think it's great for him.
I met Travis. Seems like a great guy.
Yeah, he's great. But like, see, just for him to get checked out, make sure he doesn't have any issues. But what they'll also do is tell you all the supplements that you could take that may help you. And that's a great thing too, because a lot of people are like, well, what should I take? Should I take terkesterone? Like, probably not. But should I take, this drug or that, this supplement or that supplement? Will this help me build muscle? Blah, blah. And like, based on a lot of different factors, they'll say, hey, you're deficient in vitamin B. You're deficient in vitamin D. You could use this and this to help you build more muscle, whatever. They give you a bunch of different examples of things that you could use if you wanted to be natural. So, and that's pretty cool. So that's my TRT story. And what's really interesting is Mark is also with Merrick Health, and I just think everybody thinks that Mark is like loaded up on stuff, and Mark takes Greg Doucette suffers from this too. He takes I think Greg Doucette takes 140 milligrams of testosterone. I think Mark takes around 200 like I do. But Mark even says like, he's like, I'm lazy. I'll forget to do a shot. Like, I might go 2 weeks and forget to do it, And I think that people are thinking like, there's no way. He must be on so much more things. But if you look at the amount of work that he does every day, he runs every day, he walks every day, and he lifts almost every day. And he eats good all the time. So and he's already lean. Like once you're already lean, you're already in. You're already in the club to where your body is just kind of burning body fat continuously. You know, Mark is already like a machine. His body's already like a furnace, and so it's just gonna burn whatever he's throwing on the fire. You know, until he exceeds that caloric limit for a certain amount of days, and he'll start packing body fat back. You know, but I think that a lot of people like that. It's one thing I always say: if you've never taken steroids before, it's really hard to judge people that are on them because you want to attribute everything to the steroids. And the steroids usually have very little to do with their success. Steroids are 10% of their success. You know, the way that steroids add up over time is you take somebody like Larry Wheels who starts out at a like lighter body weight and a small guy and then works his way up to being like, I don't know how big he is, 260, 270. I don't know how much he weighs.
Barry Bonds.
Yeah, so
Barry Bonds went from.
So you get bigger, right? And because you get bigger, if you get bigger, I mean, if you take steroids and you actually don't get bigger, like for example, like the amount that I take, I never get any bigger. I stay like 200 pounds. I can continue to get stronger. But if I really wanted to excel in powerlifting, the only way I could really do it would be to take steroids, eat more, and get bigger. Then I have better leverages under the bar. I would be stronger because I'm heavier. But I don't want to weigh 250 at my height or something. You know, I mean, it'd be ridiculous. I'd have to kind of get even a little fatter, and being a little fatter actually helps you in powerlifting. So what a lot of people don't realize is like it's not necessarily, you know, the steroids put, you know, 200 pounds on somebody's bench. It's the 50 pounds of muscle they put on plus the testosterone that put that on. You know, so it's like you usually have to gain weight to get exceptionally stronger. There are certain drugs like Anavar that you can get stronger without really gaining much weight, and that's what a lot of weight class athletes will use, stuff more like that rather than things that'll help you gain weight long. So there you have it. So yeah, if anybody wants to hop on that TRT train, like I said, don't be afraid to go to Merrick.com. Use the code Boar at merrickhealth.com, and you can use it on your intake call if you book a consultation. So you can use it twice, I believe. And that's it. So
Right here. Yeah.
yeah, that's it right there. Like I said, this is Derek's company from More Plates, More Dates. He's a part of this. He's always done good by me. He's always had good information. So that's what I use. That's where I go. See you guys later.